Welcome to the forum for the Clarkdale Town Council candidates who will appear on the August 28th primary ballot. This forum is hosted by the League of Women Voters of the Greater Verde Valley. My name is Gail DeGotti. I am a member of the League of Women Voters and your moderator for this evening. This forum is also videotaped, as you can see, by Yavapai Broadcasting for showing on Cable 1, Channel 56, Suddenlink Channel 2, and YouTube. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization, and we envision a democracy where every person has the desire, the right, the knowledge, and the confidence to participate in it. The purpose of this forum is to enable the audience to hear from the candidates about why they want to serve on the town council, and then to provide an opportunity for you to pose questions to the candidates about the issues that are important to you and to them. The goal for the forum is threefold: fairness, civility, and engagement. Our timekeeper this evening is Kathy Kinsella, who is the president of the League of Women Voters of the Verde Valley. And we also have Pat Corrington here, who will be assisting in collecting questions to pose to the candidates later this evening. The role of the timekeeper is to keep us all on time. She has 3 signs: 1 minute, 30 seconds, and stop. She will raise the 1-minute sign and then the 30-second sign to let the candidates know how much time remains in their particular slot. She will then raise the stop sign to signal the candidate who is speaking to end his or her sentence. We also will collect written questions from you, the audience, and organize them into topic areas, and then I can present them to the candidate. Or, since we are a small group, if you want to write down your question as the candidates are speaking this evening prior to the question and answer time, then you can pose the question yourself. You don't have to have me pose it for you. It's up to you. The format of this forum is 3 parts. The first part will be opening remarks from each candidate. The second part will be questions from you, the audience. And the third part will be closing statements. In the opening remarks, each candidate has 2 minutes to introduce him or herself to you. Then each candidate will be presented a question from the League of Women Voters, which was provided to them in advance. Following that, there will be questions from you. Candidates will have 1 to 2 minutes to respond to the question that is posed to them, depending upon the time period or the number of issues that we have to cover. So that's why writing your questions down and we get a feel for how many questions there are helps us gauge the time better. The moderator, me, will also allow rebuttal time to the questions for each candidate if there is sufficient time. We anticipate that we will adjourn this forum around 8 o'clock. So around 7:45, we will stop the Q&A part of the evening and then go to closing statements from the candidates. And each candidate will have 2 minutes to present final remarks to you. I want to share with you some guidelines for this forum. I'm sure everyone here will be civil and fair, and the League has several guidelines for forums. So let me tell you what they are. The first one is the moderator's role is to manage the forum fairly for both the candidates and for you. The goal is to keep the discussion moving, and the order of speaking by the candidates has been determined in advance by a lottery. So they pulled a number out of a hat, and that's how we have this order. The second guideline is that the candidates are to be respectful of each other's points of view, speak their minds freely, and not engage in personal attacks. The candidates will not interrupt each other, and I'm sure that I don't even have to say that. The third guideline is that the audience is asked to refrain from applauding or in other ways demonstrating support or non-support for the candidates and their comments. We will have applause at the very end for everyone, for the candidates and for you. The fourth guideline is that time limits on responses to questions will be observed strictly. I will have the responsibility for enforcing the time limits if people go over the stop sign. I'm the enforcer on that. I'll do it kindly. The fifth rule is, should these guidelines be violated by the candidates or the audience, the moderator, me, has the responsibility to adjourn the forum. Those are the guidelines. Now let's get to the good stuff. Each candidate has 2 minutes to share why he or she is seeking election or re-election to the town council, as well as to tell us about their qualifications and skills for the position. As I mentioned, the order of speaking has been determined prior to the start of the forum, and so we will begin now with Bill. You're on.
Okay.
You're on.
Good evening. My name is Bill Regner. I'm seeking re-election for a 4-year term on the Clarkdale Town Council. Thank you to the League of Women Voters, Greater Verde Valley, St. Thomas Episcopal Church for hosting us, and Moderator Gail, and attendees here and at home. I've served on the Clarkdale Council for 8 years. Prior to that, I was 2 years on the Planning and Zoning Commission. Is this on? I'm hearing, I can't hear. Clarkdale resident for 11 years, Arizona resident for 48, married 41 years to my lovely wife, Janet Regner. We have 2 grown sons, both married, and 4 grandsons. I hope to convey to you tonight that your town government has performed responsibly and competently during my tenure, that I have contributed effectively to that effort, and among the many reasons to retain me is that with a significant number of staff transitions taking place recently and in the near future, that continuity and stability on your council is the choice that makes the most sense for Clarkdale. Your vote for Bill Regner on August 28th will ensure that the culture of excellence in your town government will be preserved. When I first ran 8 years ago, I promised to be thoughtful and reasonable. I believe that I am proven in that regard. I am known for doing the work and coming to meetings prepared. I engage in the discussions around the issues being addressed, and while I am proud to be a member of a council that thoughtfully educates itself on each issue and votes often in consensus, I am known to be the single vote in opposition on occasion if I believe it is the right thing to do. It is important to me that when Clarkdale citizens come before a council to express their concerns and desires, they leave feeling that Bill Regner listened to them, even if I did not vote in the way they hoped. Outside of council, I'm involved in the community, attending events and supporting the efforts of organizations such as the Downtown Business Alliance, Made in Clarkdale, Clarkdale Historical Society and Museum, the 1928 Clarkdale Bank Robbery reenactment, for which I am producer, director, scriptwriter, and actor. I love and serve this town.
Thank you, Bill.
Appreciate your vote.
Thank you. Thank you. Ben?
Thank you. My name is Ben Kramer, and I've been serving on the council since September of 2017. It's been my great pleasure to do so. I was raised in Clarkdale. I worked and lived here for most of my life until I went to the University of Arizona, where I earned my degree in regional development and mathematics. I worked for a number of years in Tucson and Marana, building communities and parks and roads, and then I moved back here to be closer to home and closer to family. Upon returning home, I worked as a substitute teacher. I went to Central America for a number of years to immerse myself in Spanish culture and language, and then returned to become a firefighter EMT for the city of Cottonwood. I've worked there now for 9 years, and I truly enjoy that. In that time, I received my associate's degree in paramedicine and fire science, and it's absolutely rewarding work. I got involved in Clarkdale once again after returning home by volunteering in a number of boards. I worked on the Library Advisory Board, the Public Safety Personnel Retirement System Board, Community Services Commission, and I volunteered at a number of special events, which are, just about as much fun to volunteer for as to attend. And I really got to know our tremendous staff here. I can't be more impressed with the talent that we have in our town. That I think outpaces many towns of our size. Personally, I share my life with my amazing fiance, Keisha, who's here with me tonight, and our 4 ducks. I spend my extra time I'm not going to go off on ducks because of the time limit, but another time. extra time volunteering with the Salvation Army, tutoring, construction, reading, and taking classes towards my accounting degree at Yavapai. My vision for Clarkdale is nurturing emerging programs and businesses, continuing to honor our traditions, enhancing the quality of life for our citizens, encouraging progress and sustainable choices for our town. Citizens should be involved and lead the town. We have a strong team now, and I think it's important that we have consistency through our upcoming transitions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Bob?
I don't want to cheat. I'm Bob Ingley, and I'm just happy to be here. Let me tell you why I'm happy to be here. I'm a two-time cancer survivor, and although my mind works perfectly good, except sometimes my wife doubts that, my tongue gives me a little bit of a hard time. But that's okay. That's God reminding me to speak less and listen more. And that's what I try and do. I was born and raised in Staten Island, New York. Staten Island was one of the 5 counties in New York, but it was, when I was growing up, it was, the South Shore was farmland. The North Shore where I lived was neighborhoods. I lived in West Brighton. We were a very neighborhood-oriented community, somewhat like Clarkdale. In 1978, I took my first visit to Arizona. I'd come over from Prescott, come over the mountain, from Jerome, Clarkdale, and by the time I made it to Sedona, I said, this is where I want to live. Unbelievable. 1988, I married my wife, Tad. We come out here, we went over the mountain, we went through here. I said, Tad, when we got to Sedona, this is where I want to live. And she said, okay. In 1994, I graduated with a bachelor's degree in St. Joseph's College. 1995, I retired as a lieutenant NYPD, and I moved to Tucson and became a Tucson police officer. I then went to become a police chief in Kearney, town about 2,500, Florence, 3,500. And in 2014, I retired. We got the opportunity about 3.5 years ago. We purchased a house. I got a job with Yavapai Apache Nation, and I the Yavapai College Police Department, and I'm living my dream. I don't know how I ever did that in 2 minutes because it was 66 years of life. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Eileen?
My name is Eileen Saito, and sorry. My name is Eileen Saito, and first I would like to thank the League of Women Voters. Can you hear me now? Okay, great. The League of Women Voters for having this event here and in other local areas. Your work is critical in our democratic process of voting for candidates who are running locally and nationally. Thank you. I'm originally from Wisconsin, and late in my nursing career, I moved to Sheridan, Wyoming to work at a tertiary Veterans Administration psychiatric hospital, from where I retired. And because of living in Wyoming, I really love the West and being west of the Mississippi, and eventually landed here in Arizona. I've been in Clarkdale, it'll be 2 years in December, and before that I lived in Pine Shadows in Cottonwood. This is the first time I've run for public office, and I'm running for the Clarkdale Town Council because I want to serve the community that I live in. Serving the communities that I have lived in previously has been an important part of my life for many years. Currently, my community activities include volunteering at the Old Town Mission. I've been a volunteer at the Mission on Pinal Street in Cottonwood for 3 years. I also return to Wyoming yearly for the annual summer camp of the Girl Scouts of Sheridan County, Wyoming. My previous volunteer work has been working in soup kitchens in Wyoming and Wisconsin, working at a third world gift shop, and working at local food banks. As a registered nurse, I have experience working in state, county, and federal job positions. And as I said previously, I retired from the Veterans Administration in Sheridan. I would like to be on the Clarkdale Town Council because Clarkdale is such a special and unique Western town to live in, and I want to work hard to keep Clarkdale the great place it is to live in for all residents now and in the future.
Thank you, Eileen. Now we're going to turn to the question that the League of Women Voters posed to each of the candidates in advance of tonight's forum. We recognize that you as candidates have lived in Clarkdale long enough to know that there are things you like and things you'd like to change or improve about living here. Obviously, some of your opinions have been presented in your campaign, and we would like to narrow the focus just a little bit. So the League of Women Voters is posing the following question to each candidate. What are 3 specific things you like best about living in Clarkdale? That's part 1. And part 2 is, what are 3 specific things you would change or improve about Clarkdale? And Eileen, we're going to start at your end and work this way.
Okay. The 3 specific things top for me, the living in Clarkdale, is living in a safe historical community. I think that's very important. I generally feel citizens feel very safe here. Citizens also, I like citizens' activities to promote and preserve the Verde River and the variety of the different communities that make up Clarkdale, with the positive, close-knit, small-town community spirit that I encountered myself when I was going door to door and talking to residents in several of our communities. The specific things that I would like to see change about Clarkdale, and this stems from the people I spoke to going door to door, that we need more community involvement of the residents in town council meetings. Several residents told me they did not know when or where the council meetings took place. Many residents did not know that you can access town council meetings online, the minutes, and on the Clarkdale website. Would like to see more information given to residents periodically to inform Clarkdale residents of public meetings. Also, I would like to see an increase in affordable housing for single-family or multifamily residents, and of course, improve roads and infrastructure as needed.
Thank you. Bob? 3 things you like and 3 things you'd like to change.
The first thing I like is the people. All the people I've come across are caring about the community, they're hardworking, they're family-oriented, they're civic-minded, and they're neighbors, and they help neighbors. The second thing I like is the environment. I like walking, hiking, hunting, fishing, riding, kayaking, rides a side-by-side, rides a motorcycle. Where else can you do it better than here? The third thing I like is the small town appeal and the slow pace. I lived in a fast pace. I enjoy the slow pace. That's what I like about Clarkdale. Did I do all right with the time?
You're good.
Well, then let me tell you why I'm running for council. All them things I did, I learned a lot, and I want to bring that to serve the people of this community.
Are there some things you'd like to change?
Oh yeah.
You have 30 seconds to tell us about
Oh,
that.
that's good. I want to change the tax burden on the citizens. We need more industry in this town. I want to revitalize downtown. It's a beautiful historical place. And I would like to see the lake and the golf course come back to this place. I've heard many stories about that.
Thank you. Ben?
Thank you. 3 things I like about Clarkdale. You know, I think we share a lot of the same ideas. It's a great place to walk around, visit with people. Everyone's friendly, and whether they're sitting on their porch or they're waving as they're driving by, it's a great place just to be, and no matter what you're doing. So I like traveling around town. I like seeing all the smiling faces. Number 2, I'm absolutely impressed with the team that Gail and the previous council has built. They, like I said, incredible talent. It seems like they're all working off the same playbook, and they're ambassadors for our community, constantly showing that pride they have in the town that they work for and in the town that many of them enjoy. And the third thing I love about Clarkdale is people are always discovering our town, whether it's visitors or people looking to relocate or longtime citizens just enjoying new activities. People love coming here, and Clarkdale's a place that people want to come, not just come once, but come back to. And I think that that's what I really like. Things to change about Clarkdale. I think it's important to always look at what we can improve. And I think the one thing we can do is improve that walkability and that pedestrian aspect. And so creating connections between the different boroughs of Clarkdale or neighborhoods, and new recreation opportunities so that everyone can kind of reach those from where they are. Let's see, I think another important change coming up is talking about the roads. It's an investment in our future. I think we have some great people working on that. Maher Hazine, who we just brought on as Public Works Director, is really strong in his knowledge, and I think that he can put together a very responsible plan for everyone. And the third thing that I'd change is just that I want to remember that we have to stay fluid at all times as we're moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Bill? 3 things you like and 3 things you'd like to improve or change.
Well, in addition to the people, my 3 things are small town identity, incredible beauty, and commitment to sustainability. 4th of July, pancake breakfast ice cream social, the parade, concerts in the park, town park and gazebo, children's parade on Halloween, Clarkdale Historical Society Museum, the home tour, the bank robbery reenactment, block parties, on and on, Copper Museum. We're the first master planned community in Arizona. I love the historic homes and buildings. Its commitment to the arts and Made in Clarkdale and public art, the incredible number of volunteers who make all those things happen. The incredible beauty, the Verde River, Magus Mountain, Sycamore Canyon, sights on the Verde Canyon Railroad, the incredible sunsets and sunrises, the mists around Tuesday Good on cool mornings after a rain, the bright stars on dark nights. Clarkdale Sustainability Initiative, the Verde River at Clarkdale, Lower Tapco, and Tuesday Good Wraps, kayaks, canoes, tubers, fishers, swimmers, and barbecues. Leadership in the Verde Front Coalition. Change, a thriving downtown, connectivity, balancing revenue sources to alleviate our dependence on property taxes. Sufficient local supported businesses so they can survive and multiply. Enough tourist traffic so that local businesses can thrive. Increase ecotourism related services to build on increased access to the Verde River. Pedestrian trails linking to the Central Business District. Connector roads linking across from areas south of 89A bypass to Broadway in the Central Business District. More retail-oriented businesses collecting sales tax so Clarkdale residents can purchase what they need here. Increase commercial property tax valuations by having businesses operating in buildings on land zoned commercial. Is that a stop?
Nope, you get 10 seconds.
Actualizing the proposed and adopted plans for the Bitter Creek Wash Industrial Area, the Broadway Corridor, and the 89A Corridor.
Thank you. Thank you all. Now it's your opportunity to ask questions of the candidates. If you've written a question down on one of the index cards provided, you can just hold it up and Pat will collect them. Or if you choose to pose your question directly from your seat, that's fine too. What's your pleasure?
I'll ask a question, if I may.
Yes? Is it to all the candidates or? Okay.
What do you see as the single most important thing affecting the future of Clarkdale?
The way we're going to respond is we're going to start with Ben and move down and then come back to Bill. So you have 2 minutes.
I'm sorry, can you please rephrase it? The single most important?
Single most important thing affecting the future of Clarkdale.
Affecting the future of Clarkdale. Thank you. Great question. Hard to narrow it down. Everything that we work on is so complex, but I think the most important thing that we need to do is be willing to rethink, what this town can be. And we talk so much about the small town environment, and I think it's really important not to think small town. It means that means we put up the walls and no one else comes in. We want to invite people here, and we want to create the new 21st century version of the master plan community where people walked around town and they did a lot of their commerce in town. They did most of their recreation in town. I think we have the opportunity to recreate that, and it's going to take a lot of really smart motion as far as figuring out, well, how do the people move in and out of town? How do they stay here? How do they stay engaged? And so I think thinking about the small town feeling and how that applies in our modern century is the single most important thing that we need to do. And I think that the staff is looking at innovation, and they're looking at new concepts and well-tested old concepts and combining those in a way that, well, as Clarkdale says, makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you state your question again one more time for us?
Yes. What is the single most important thing affecting the future of Clarkdale?
What is the single most important thing affecting the future of Clarkdale? Bob, you're on.
Well, I think the thing that most affects this whole state is water. And I think water is the biggest concern everywhere. And if you want to bring industry into this town, you have to be concerned about water. And if you want to keep the Verde River flowing, we have to be concerned about water. So I think statewide, the most important thing we have to always remain focused on is water.
Thank you, Bob. Eileen, what is the single most important thing affecting the future of Clarkdale?
I totally agree with the water issue and conserving our natural resources, because if we don't have water, we won't have a town. So it's basically comes down to that. And that leads me to my second point, which is slow, steady growth that we've had since the 90s. And we are, as people are building homes in Clarkdale, and I think we have to be very mindful of how much growth we're going to have that's going to affect our infrastructure, our water use, and our facilities in town. But then that leads me to, I feel that community development, and there are a lot of ideas that can be shared for community development, which was going to help us with the tax base and increasing revenue, for the town in whole, and I think that's really important too.
Thank you. And Bill, the single most important thing affecting the future of Clarkdale?
Well, I'm also going to go with water. I think that is the defining thing that determines how we grow. I think it's very clear to me that a continuously flowing Verde River is an absolute necessity, a must for us for the future of this region. It is the lifeblood of our region, and we can build an economy around that flowing river, so we have to maintain it. Clarkdale has been very wise in its past in the purchase of the water company, and not everybody realizes that in that purchase also gave us the right to be a part of the conversations if a developer wants to come in, and we can insist that they show that there's an adequate water supply for the number of homes that they want to build. So we're part of that conversation now. It was a very forward-thinking council at the time. I wish I'd been on it, but I've only been there to support it. But buying that water company with all the downsides of it, it was a very much a positive that we are now a part of that discussion. So water is the key factor, and we must be involved in creative mitigation strategies so that if something is built and we determine how much water is used, and we have to mitigate water use somewhere else so that we stay within our water budget. Water budget is what we've determined because we did a study in the town of Clarkdale to determine how much water exists and how much we can pump without depleting our aquifers, groundwater tables to a dangerous point where wells are going dry. And so we know what that budget is, we know what we have to do, and we can create the tools to do water mitigation so that we can have the growth we want, smart kind of growth that we want, and still have the water on its way to the Verde River for us to use and to keep that ecosystem sustained. Thank you.
Thank you. I have two questions from the audience. One of them is addressed to all of you, and it says, and I think you've touched on it already, but we're going to have another opportunity to talk about it. Here's the question. How much of a factor is the Verde River in Clarkdale's economic future? And we're going to start with Bob.
I think that one of the uniquenesses about Clarkdale is the fact that we have access to the Verde River and that it runs through here. And I think it was, what was it, critical? Is that what you said?
The question is, how much of a factor is the Verde River in Clarkdale's economic future?
Oh, I think it's a huge factor. I think the fact that they have focused on the river access and the tourism that it brings in here and the entertainment it gives to our families and our children, I think it's the most critical part and one of the most unique parts of this town is the river. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Eileen, do you want me to repeat the question? Or
No,
okay,
I
you're
think I
good?
have it, thank
Okay.
you. I think that the Verde River is critical to Clarkdale's economic future. Just stepping back a little bit, so many rivers, I think 5 in Arizona, have gone completely dry from neglect. So we should be, or use, and we should be very proud of our river here, and we need to protect it. It is not our first sort. Our drinking water is groundwater, but the Verde River certainly supplies entertainment in the natural space. And that is going to go back to my first point of developing tourism and community development, is protecting and conserving the Verde River. So I think it's a critical economic factor.
Thank you. Bill?
Well, I think the example that demonstrates the answer to the question is the Verde River at Clarkdale. When I was on the Planning Commission, which I mentioned before I came on council, we presented before the council one time, and I said, where's the river? Because at that time, the river access points weren't improved. In fact, we had the one at the Tuzagoot Bridge, but those of you who've been here a long time know it was undeveloped. There were no facilities there, somewhat undesirables, and we're kind of frequenting there. And all along the river, that's kind of was the case. The access to the river was, those access points were not improved. Well, we came in, we have contracts with state parks, we have contracts with Freeport-McMoRan to develop our 2 river access points. Now we have, kayak companies, we have the owner of one sitting in here today, we have, people coming into downtown Clarkdale and supporting their businesses. We have seen the positive impacts of the development on the Verde River that we have already accomplished. And so I think we're going to expand that, and we're going to have more people coming in, utilizing the facilities on the river that we are going to help create, and we're going to see jobs created, other businesses supported, and we're already seeing evidence of it. We just need to do it more of it and do it better.
Thank you. And Ben, how much of a factor is the Verde River in Clarkdale's economic development and future?
Thank you. Well, I think the Verde River is an incredible asset to us. As far as a factor in the economic future, I think the Verde River is unique in that it draws people from the outside, and it's hard to find a better salesperson for our community than the river, which is always there and flowing and enjoyable for so many aspects. It supports the vegetation and the ecosystem, and so all the beautiful birds that we have, and the wildlife, and the wild ducks. Just it supports everything that we have here, so it makes it enjoyable to be here, makes it enjoyable to visit, and I think what's been really neat about having the river and improving it over the past decade or so that it's been worked on is that it's shown such an incredible cooperation with outside agencies. We've been able to team up with our neighboring communities. We've been able to team up with state and federal agencies. to start improving that, start creating this string of pearls along the Verde River. And it's allowed Clarkdale to emerge in just one more sector as a leader of communities, especially for our size and especially for our number of resources. So it is definitely a gold star on Clarkdale's record, and I think it will continue to be that for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Would someone like to pose a question from the audience? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Ellie. Can you hear me? My name is Ellie Bauer, and I'm the former vice mayor of Clarkdale many moons ago. That's why I'm going to say what I'm going to say. We haven't hit upon one really important part of this community, and I think it's obligatory upon our council to be able to talk to us about the children of Clarkdale. So with that in mind, I'm going to throw it open to you. How important are the children of Clarkdale?
Okay, the question is that the children of Clarkdale are an important resource to us all, and that's what you're saying. They're really important. So you would like to know from the candidates what their thoughts are about how important are the children of Clarkdale. And we're going to start with Eileen.
When I was looking up information on when I was looking up information about Clarkdale, I think it was Wikipedia or something way back when, but they said that Clarkdale was a senior community, and they had it listed as Pine Shadows is included in that too. Well, I beg to differ with you. I totally disagree with that. We have lots of children. The community I live in, we have a lot of kids, and children are our future, plain and simple. The education, we have education for the kids and recreational activities during the summer is really important. So I am strongly in favor of giving them the best education we can with the Clarkdale Jerome school districts. I'm proud of the teachers for what they did recently to try to improve their wages, etc. I totally agree with that. But they are the future, and I also have recommended that we do, the pool is closed now, and I heard from a lot of residents that they miss the pool. So I think that more recreational things for kids during the summer would be important also.
Thank you. Bill, how important are the children of Clarkdale to the future?
A comment was made at our last council meeting that maybe we just needed to just accept the fact that we were becoming a senior community, and that's what the way it was going to be. And I went, oh, no, 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 no. That is not what I want. I want families here with children. I want that mix of young and old. And, I thrive on being around children, and I, most of them seem to like me too. So, but I think that's a healthy community, and I think Clarkdale understands that already. I think when you look at what we do with our community services department and the 4th of July and the parade and the Halloween. I've been a judge at the Halloween contest for the last few years, as has Ben, and that's the hardest job in town, I can tell you that. But that's so much fun, and those kids have so much fun there, and they come from all over the valley and to be, show off their costumes, to get trick-or-treating. I think Clarkdale gets that. We have it's not associated with the town directly, but Clarkdale Jerome School, it's a very unique school that people come from all over the valley to come here because Clarkdale has a sense of itself that it values its children and wants enriched life and education experiences for its children. So I think Clarkdale gets children really well, and I think we got to make sure that we're getting younger families here so that we can keep that mix.
Thank you. Ben?
Thank you. Children in Clarkdale, and I was lucky enough to be one many, many years ago, which it just made me think of this, but I fell, got stuck in a tree, and was getting, choked, and Mayor Wiley ran across the street from Town Hall and pulled me out of that tree and saved my life. So, yeah, so that's kind of an aside. I think Clarkdale has a tradition of celebrating our children, and Bill touched on it, but we have the 4th of July celebration, and that's not necessarily for the adults, and it's not for the fire truck to drive down the street. It's so that the kids can come out and decorate their bikes and decorate their wagons and torture their dogs and walk them down the street. And we do the same thing on Halloween, and we create a safe place that is a magnet for families. And not every family that wants to be in Clarkdale can live here. We don't have the space, but I think it's wonderful that we invite them in, whether it's doing Santa or anything else. But along with that safety and that safe environment, I believe that we try to offer some of those passive recreation opportunities. And I'd love to see Clarkdale have better access for all those children. Adding the sidewalk from Mountain Gate down Clarkdale Parkway so that they can get to the park safely, putting in the pickleball courts up in Centerville, doing those enhancements that allow the children of Clarkdale to have a safe, clear places to play, having no smoking in all the parks. It's very few children complained about that. But I think it's probably an even safer environment for them. So I think Clarkdale has a tradition of celebrating children, and I would look to see that continue and expand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Bob, your views.
Well, obviously, the children are our future, and they make the community. That's what makes this community, is our children, our grandchildren. And I think if Clarkdale reaches out and brings in some light industry that will bring in younger people that have younger families, that our community can become more diverse and have more children here. I also believe that downtown, if it's created or rehabilitated correctly, should have entertainment for families. I know that there's an entertainment district. The problem is we don't have any entertainment in it, and we need some. But everything should be focused around family. That's what life is all about, and that's what this town needs to be all about, family. Thank you.
Thank you. One of the questions that's been submitted kind of takes us continuing on this idea of learning and education. So here's the question, and we'll start with Bill in the responses. What are your thoughts about how Clarkdale can work more closely with Yavapai College, the Verde campus in Clarkdale?
Interesting that I get to go first on this, since I've been very much involved with Yavapai College while have been on the council, and we don't have a formal liaison arrangement, but that was an area of focus, and I was also on the advisory board to the governing board from the Verde Valley. And so I think that it's an interesting question, because there are obviously two government entities, and they have their own boards, and they make their own decisions based on what's best for them. But we have a campus here in Clarkdale, and that's a very much a plus for us. We've worked together with the college on water for the vineyards, as far as they're getting their treated effluent from Cottonwood. Unfortunately, we're not there to do that, but they have a tap to Clarkdale water if they need it, and they've also provided data about the water usage and things like that. So that's one of the areas that we we already are working together. I really wish we had some of their activities right in central Clarkdale, so that we could have those people there and that kind of activity, that vibrant kind of learning activity that's right in our historic downtown. I think I understand that years ago that was even a consideration. So I'm not sure what other specific kinds of things can come to mind immediately, but certainly I think the relationship between the town and the college is positive and constructive, and that we will continue working towards whatever kind of things we can do together.
Thank you, Bill. Ben, your thoughts on how Clarkdale can work more closely with Yavapai College?
No, thank you. As I said, I'm a graduate and current student of Yavapai College, and I've I've been really impressed with the programs there. As far as how Clarkdale can work more closely with the Yavapai College, I know in recent years they've worked hard to start some programs that maybe take students out of the traditional classroom, and that includes their culinary program that they're offering in Sedona. I would love to see Clarkdale work with them for maybe some of the outdoors and ecological studies, since we do have this incredible asset with the river access points, some of the ecology that they could be doing, that maybe the students could at least during a semester or two spend some time out and enjoying the beautiful land that we have. I think with the remediation of the park complete and additional power outlets added, I think it's a possibility that they would be able to host things like their job fairs or student fairs, maybe in town. On our premises, and I know that another sometimes overlooked way that we continue to cooperate with Yavapai College is by having interaction between our two police forces, and I know that having them so close here in town makes us safer, and we're able to back them up as well if they ever need an additional hand. So that's a good example, and hopefully we'll find more in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob, your thoughts?
That's me, Ben. Yavapai College Police Department. Anyway, I understand that Yavapai College is trying to develop the future workers, and what we need to do is they have that small business development center there that's helping businesses get off the ground in the area. And then you have the college developing the future workforce for those businesses. One of the things that was brought to my attention is, I have 1 minute, is that if they could bring in small industry that supports the wine industry, such as making barrels or labels or equipment that they might need, if we could bring that into Clarkdale and they could develop the future workers for that industry, that would be a nice partnership. I also enjoy being over there. I enjoy watching the young people learn. And we have some smart young people, and we need to teach them in this area and help them develop this area, stay in this area, and become a part of this area. I'm going to give up my 10 seconds. You're welcome.
Thank you. And Eileen, your thoughts about this?
I strongly, of course, with my background and experience, I'm very strongly for education, and I've had firsthand experience with, especially in nursing, that you don't get all of your education in your program, you get it once you're out of school, and that's what's so critical. And that's why I think Clarkdale could do really well with mentoring students, either the students that you just mentioned, Bob, or other ones that have real on-the-job experience. I think that would be really important. Besides the monies that we contribute to the college, which is very important, and also continuing of the nursing program, which of course we all need in our community, and that's how I feel.
Thank you. Now, there are two questions that have been submitted that are similar. So I'm going to share both questions with you, and I'm going to ask you to respond to the major intent of the question. So here's question number one. After passing the town's beautiful new town park, I see many empty businesses. What is the best way or the best plan to attract new businesses to old buildings? That's part one. And here's part two. These two questions are related. What types of industries, not tourism and not construction, would you invite into Clarkdale, and what enticements or incentives are you willing to provide to non-tourists? Hire more than 20 employees, pay living wages. So these two questions are wanting to know, what are your thoughts about bringing businesses into Clarkdale, and what's the best way to attract them? And we're going to start with Ben.
Thank you. After passing the new park, you see several empty businesses, and they have held various things over the years with mixed success, and a lot of that has had to do with the actual foot traffic, and we talked a lot about foot traffic at a recent meeting, but you know, I think that it's not always a matter of how many times the doorbell is ringing as people are coming in, but more that we have the right opportunities for people, and I think that you know, cavernous spaces might not be the best fit for the businesses of today, and I think something where you might go in and you might have 4 or 5 different avenues for your commerce, all available in one space, you know, smaller form factors, more efficient run businesses. I think that draws people in. As far as the industries, it would be great. I recently got to tour a brand new beverage business that was in Cottonwood, but they set up manufacturing, and it's all in a building that you wouldn't think anything of as you drove by, and now they're in 47 states, and they're in 15 countries and everything else, and I think it's surprising how much can come out of a space so small. So I think something that is manufacturing or beverage or organic food, a lot of the sustainable and reuse industries would be wonderful here, and I think they'd fit with kind of the ethos of the town. So those are what I'd love to see given the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
How would you entice them to come here?
That was part 2 of the question, and we'll come back. Ben had his 2 minutes. We'll come back, okay? So Bob, the question is, how would you attract new businesses to old buildings, and what are the incentives or enticements that you would consider providing in order to attract them? That's what you're asking, right?
I think the first thing the town needs to do is revisit their fees and their regulations for small businesses and see if they're not interfering with encouraging businesses to come into town. I also think there are ways of working with them with tax incentives that might encourage them to come. But the biggest challenge that I see is all the buildings need so much money put into them to bring them up to code that it's a very, very distinct investment obstacle. And I don't know the answer to that. I'm not going to tell you I do. But I would love to see that big building that's been apparently vacant for 40 years. I would love to see a railroad museum in there, and don't ask me why, but I just think it fits in with that Papa Museum, it fits in with the railroad, and it might have some kind of potential. But you have to look at regulations, fees, and tax incentives, and then speak to the people and see what it is that's preventing them from wanting to take the chance of coming into town. And see if you can work with them and find out what you can do. I got 30 seconds. Oh, let me think about this. And I would ask around and talk to a business that's looking to come in and say, what's the problem? What's holding you up? What is it we can do to help you make that leap? And talk to them. And I'm going to forfeit my 10 seconds. You're up.
Thank you. Eileen, how would you attract new businesses to old buildings, and what incentives or enticements would you offer?
Well, according to Clarkdale's Community Development Association, which they have quite a few good ideas for sure, and the ones that are not tourism and construction would include like B&Bs, farmers markets, and assisted living facilities, a self-service laundry and dry cleaning, artist studios, and I'd actually like to see, I would recommend artist co-op similar to what's in Jerome, medical, dental, and nurse practitioner offices, even repair shops, a bank. I think those are all really good, and not tourism or, well, they may help tourism out a little bit, but no construction. The two major incentives that I see for this are the living wage would be the most important to attract people, and then promoting our safe community, and our housing is modern. They could have their choice of modern versus historic, which is so neat here. And the thing that's so great is we can promote our quality of life. And also that we're relatively close to a major metropolitan area of Flagstaff, which that's important to people because we're such a small community.
Thank you. And Bill, what are your thoughts on this
Well,
one?
it's a great question, and the answer is going to take a lot longer than 2 minutes. But this is a question that Clarkdale has struggled with for a very long time, and we've seen businesses come and go, and we've seen businesses that are here struggling to survive, and there seems to be a lot of challenges that we have. We've been talking for years, how do we get the train traffic to turn right after they get off the train and come into town? What are we going to do? How are we going to do that? How are we going to get more tourists coming into Clarkdale? But this is an organic thing, and Clarkdale, first of all, is very limited in the kinds of things that we can do. We've already gone through all our zoning codes and and things like that to determine that we are business friendly, and we have a town staff that's always looking how to get to yes, and so that part of it's we've looked at. But what we're missing are the people who are down there supporting those businesses. For some reason, those businesses that are there are not able to survive on the people who are just walking around. So Ben and I have been talking, and I we hope that over the next year or so we can talk more about this on our council, that we need to explore the ideas of new urbanism, the idea of we need to get these younger families, these millennials, and even baby boomers, they all want the same kind of a living situation. They're downsizing, they're more efficient, they want to have pedestrian access to the kinds of services that they want. I'm never going to get this done in 30 seconds. But this is the kind of thing we need to kind of explore. Let's talk about some higher density, multifamily, mixed use in the downtown area, and this is an organic process. When you get those people there and they want those services, then people who provide those services begin to looking for those 1,000 square foot, spaces that people want these days, and then you can divide up these buildings and things like that. But I'm stopping right now. But this is what we need to look at and explore going forward, because that's the solution, I think, to our downtown and our businesses.
One thing I'd like to suggest to you is that after we adjourn this forum, the formal part of the forum, you certainly have the opportunity to talk to the candidates individually and follow up on any of the ideas that we've so far covered. I want to try and get to as many questions as we can, so I'm going to move now to another topic related to this one, and that's affordable housing. What are your ideas about providing affordable housing for families and for employees in these new businesses you're talking about? And we're going to start with Bob. Affordable housing.
Well, unfortunately, the housing market in general is on the way up. And we're in a prime area where the cost of housing is just expensive. Now, I'm not big on making small housing multiple, because I think there should be a somewhat reasonable density in population in area. And I know that that's normally an approach that encourages lesser cost of the homes. But I think in the long run that can hurt the town. I have a minute, I'll figure it out though, I got a minute. I do not have an answer to what you can do for the cost of housing. That's a market that fluctuates, and to make something affordable in this area is going to be very difficult without going into very small, multiple family type of housing. I think the bigger question would be if we can bring some higher paying jobs into this area, that they can afford the price of the homes here and afford to be able to raise their families here, because the salaries support that.
Thank you. Eileen, your thoughts on providing affordable housing for families and the employees you're trying to attract here?
I see 4 areas that I think that could be developed in Clarkdale, and my first one, just off the top of my head, would be some type of more apartment development. I know there's a question about student housing too in town, and I think that would help that. Also, it's also been spoken about multifamily, but I'd like to see duplexes or quad homes, and even maybe remodeling present homes that could meet this need, not always, building. And then I'd like to see more townhomes and smaller condominiums, because I think if you're looking at all 4 of those areas, that could be some development for more affordable housing.
Thank you. Bill?
Thank you. Well, the problem is also part of the solution. Affordable housing and economic development, I think, go together, and we touched on it a little bit. Affordability is a product of supply and demand. If you have a lower supply, you have higher demand, you're going to get more money for it. And so we could build more houses, but we're also restricted by water. So that's something we have to think about. So that's why I'm going to go back to what I was talking about earlier. Let's talk about, there are areas within our central business district which would be ideal for a higher density, multifamily, pedestrian-oriented kind of housing, multi-use, retail, commercial, in addition to housing, maybe some parking involved, that gets expensive, as Jody points out to me. But this is, I think, the direction we need to be looking at. We need more supply in our housing, but we have to be able to do it with low water use kind of housing. And that has, that's where multifamily housing becomes one of the answers, because you're not going to have lots of lawns and stuff like that. You're going to have common areas for people, recreation areas and things like that. So you're eliminating a lot of the water use. The greatest water use in most residential houses is on their landscaping. So when you reduce that and you have higher density housing, then you reduce that draw on the water. So this is the kind of thing I think we need to explore. That also gets the people there that are looking for the kinds of services and entertainment that our central business district can provide. That supports those businesses. And if we can kind of get our heads around that, Clarkdale, and reconcile it. I'm not saying it's the way we maybe see ourselves. But if we want to solve economic development in the central business district, we need more people who live, work, and play there. And this is how we can do it and solve the housing issue to some degree.
Thank you. And Ben, your thoughts on affordable housing for families and new employees of businesses you're trying to attract here?
Thank you. I think the biggest asset to Clarkdale in the future would be the power of choice for the consumer. I think that, having the larger, further out of town, quieter, little house in the woods, that's going to appeal to some consumers. And I think that there are others who want the more vibrant, the more atmosphere, the more traditional entertainment district, where they have, they have the restaurants and they have the places to go out and meet people and do all those things. And I don't think that those are necessarily tied to certain age categories or brackets. I think there are people who, who have raised their kids and now they want something smaller and easier to take care of. I think there are young professionals in our community who, in the community of the Verde Valley, our greater community, who would love to live in somewhere like Clarkdale where there are things to do and it's happening. If we give that big menu to people and let them choose how close they want to be to their neighbor, if I was 10 feet closer to either one of my neighbors, we'd just have to yell a little bit quieter when we talk from porch to porch. So I think people should be able to choose, and so I think having the variety and having some of those tighter, more sustainable You know, the building that they're doing now in Mountain Gate, where they're building the houses so tight they don't have to upscale all the HVAC and everything else. I think that's smart, and we've seen it. Their old concepts are coming back around, and I think as we move towards more energy and water efficiency with some of that tighter housing, we get those people who are willing to share space, because when they share that space, they also are enjoying a shared atmosphere. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there another question from the floor? Yes, ma'am.
We have a Native American community, and yet I've not heard any of the council speak to diversity. How would you support diversity in Clarkdale? We have a mainly white panel. I would like a broader discussion about diversity from you guys.
Okay, so the question to you is, what are your views about diversity in Clarkdale, and how would you support that? Or attract?
Because it's a hallmark of a thriving community.
Your assumption is that diversity is the hallmark of a thriving community.
That is my assumption.
So how would the candidates attract diversity?
And how do we address the diversity that exists and no one talks about?
That's a lot to talk about in 2 minutes. We're going to start with Eileen, and the question is, what are your views on diversity and attracting diverse people to Clarkdale and honoring the diversity that already exists? 2 minutes.
I feel very strongly about diversity. That's very important to me. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I feel very strongly about diversity in communities, and it's interesting that you brought up the Native American. Living in Wyoming, with the large Indian reservations, both in Wyoming and Montana, and being involved with them and helping them out, it was really, I had a wonderful experience for that, and I'm very proud. I'm proud of our the Yavapai Apaches here in Clarkdale. Part of that, as far as I think, would be educating people about diversity and the people that live in our communities in town council meetings and schools and that type of thing, and involving them in more projects. Bill has mentioned all the wonderful activities that we have here, but I'd like to get our Native American population and other people involved in those. Why can't you have Native American drumming, music, food in some of these, and honor these people in our community? So that's how I see it.
Thank you. Bill?
Well, I think diversity is a function of having a broader range of people in general in our community, and that when your community reflects better the diversity across your country, then the more people you have across the age ranges, the more diversity you get organically. And I think Clarkdale's, we could probably be better at inviting people from the Yavapai Apache Nation to come, but we have actually a very good relationship with that community. Jane Russell Wieneke, the chairwoman, is a good friend. She's a former council member at Clarkdale. And so there's a lot of communication and there's a lot of interaction that goes on, but we could be better. Certainly we could be better at doing that. But I think we have to be careful, some of these things are organic things that we have to, the same problem that we can, if we address the problem of the diversity across, economic diversity across our town, then different other ethnic diversities, I think, begin to heal themselves, because people will come in and because they are part of the different spectrum of economic diversity. So I guess what I want to say is we're limited in what we can do. I think we have a good relationship. I think that's open. We are in constant communication with the Yavapai Apache Nation, and but we could probably do better.
Thank you. Ben, your thoughts on diversity in the Clarkdale community?
Thank you. That's a great question, and I think you're absolutely right that diversity it strengthens and it enriches the community that we are in. I don't know that I ever thought of that as a community apart from the one that we have. You drive across the roads and we share the same. We share everything all together. I think it's amazing that the town has worked so well with the tribe as far as utilities, coordination of roadways, supporting their projects and their expansion and growth. I think the best thing that we can do is offer things that can be attractive to people across the entire range of stages of life or backgrounds or anything else. The Verde River is a great example of that. The many special events that we have, I would hope, are very welcoming to people from all over, both locally and from a wider range. But I think the best thing we can do is continue to have clear and open communication with the tribe as we move forward. It's been amazing when they've been able to come and talk to us about some of their plans and ideas for the future, and being able to support those, I know, only makes Clarkdale stronger. And I think that as we grow, as we increase, some of these economic drivers and bring more and more people into our community, we'll be more able to see, even more interesting interactions throughout our community between people of all different backgrounds. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob, your thoughts?
Well, I've worked over for the nation for the last 2.5 years, and I don't see any difference between us and them. They have the same needs as us. They have the same parenting skills. They make sure their children get educated. I don't see any difference, and I've been into downtown. I personally know tribal members that work in our businesses in town. My impression was that they were pretty well integrated in this town. So I'm a little surprised to hear this question. Me as a person, I embrace diversity. I was a community policing sergeant in Greenwich Village. If you want to learn about diversity, come to Greenwich Village. I've been along with everybody. All right? We're all people, we all have the same needs, and the one main word that says it all is respect. People have different cultures, you respect their culture. You don't disrespect people. But to me, I don't see it as an issue. I welcome anyone and everyone. And to me, it matters not what you are. To me, it's who you are. And I had no problem with tribal members whatsoever. In fact, some of them are dear friends of mine now. So,
Thank you.
Did I say stop? I'm sorry.
Oh, you can keep going. I'm sorry.
Why are you yelling at me?
I'm sorry.
You're crying out loud. This place is pressure. So anyway, if anything, I was just encouraged to invite them at any time that they might not feel invited. Did that answer your question?
Bill has asked to have another minute. Is it okay with the other candidates?
No.
Okay, then we'll go on to the next. Okay. Okay, Bill, you have a minute.
Well, I agree with Bob on that. When I go to the town park and when I go to events in Clarkdale, I see a lot of diversity. Perhaps Clarkdale is dominant Caucasian, but I see a lot of families. We have a family that marches in the 4th of July parade. They've marched for 30-some years or something, and they're a big part of this community. When I first ran, Ernie Carrillo, one of my neighbors, took me to Centerville and walked me around Centerville. And if you ever go into Centerville on the weekends to their park, there's lots of things going on. If you go to the river access points to see who's there barbecuing and setting up on weekends, there's a lot of diversity there. Who's fishing? There's a lot of diversity. So I think we do much better than I think was kind of suggested, and maybe we don't have somebody on our council, but we have in the past, and I hope we do in the future. So I would certainly, welcome that in future. So, but I think we do a pretty good job, actually. But we could do better.
Thank you. May I move to the final question of the evening before your closing statements? Okay. This question asks you to share your views or your vision for a vibrant economy in Clarkdale and how you see balancing it with our natural environment. So let me say it one more time. This question asks you to share your views or your vision for a vibrant economic future economy in Clarkdale and how best to balance it with your natural resources. And we're going to start with Bill.
Well, the key word is mitigation, and because the underlying value is water. And so we can talk about developing all the different areas that are available for commercial industrial development, and we can talk about the central business district, but water, it comes back to water. So we're gonna have to get serious about mitigation kinds of ways. If you're gonna use water, you gotta save water. I've already laid out what I think is the right answer for us to explore anyway with the central business district. I think we need a higher density, multi-use, pedestrian-oriented housing there, mixed with retail and commercial. And then, we have these other areas that we are focusing on, and I think we will continue to focus. We have huge challenges for that. But, when you talk about our resources or, loving the river to death, I think we've done a really good job with the Verde River at Clarkdale. That was one of the concerns when we started improving and developing that project, was that we would love the river to death. Well, there's 6,000 kayakers, a year that go down there with the different outfitters plus the private people, and I think that river's in pretty good shape. So I think that we are learning a lot of lessons about how to balance the two, but we've got to keep that river flowing, and so that's going to take some mitigation, and the rest, are just challenges that are that every community has, and Clarkdale is no exception.
Thank you. Your views, Ben, on a vibrant economy in Clarkdale and how to balance it with natural resources.
Thank you. I think as far as a vibrant economy, the thing that we have to remember is that, we need to take a long view when we make choices that have to do with development. And if we are going to be short-sighted and we're going to try to fill the space as fast as we can, we're going to end up with additional empty buildings that don't have successful businesses. We want to build a strong and growing portfolio so that the right businesses, the ones that fit the citizens of Clarkdale, are coming here and they're doing well, and they're able to move in and expand over time and hire on more people and create more output. And then I think we have to maintain that focus on being a community that appreciates and respects its natural resources and wants to maintain and improve access to them. We don't have, none of this beautiful environment does us any good if no one can enjoy it and use it. And I think taking steps to create more access to people that they can get in and enjoy those things is going to be the key to creating that vibrant economy where people come, shop, play, and stay. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob, your views.
Interesting. I think it begins with ourselves, that we have to set the example, put the message out there to be environmentally conscious, and then as people come in and they see what we're doing to protect the environment, they should develop the same good habits. All that being said, Bill's 100% right. The main concern is water. And everything that wants to come in here, we have to pay attention to how it is going to affect our water. Because that's the number one resource that everybody is fighting for. So I think if we all practice good environmental habits, and we show people that come into this community how this community expects it to be, then they should come in and fall into the same pattern of behavior. I'm donating my 10 seconds to Eileen. We got this thing going.
Thank you. And Eileen, your views on a vibrant economy in Clarkdale and balancing it with natural resources.
I'm going to share my last idea that I'm going to share is, again, from the Community Development Association. But the four things that pop into my head is that we have to think outside the box, we have to be smart, we have to have a good balance between growth and what we can provide in our infrastructure. We need involved citizens, and we need good government. Those are my main points for that. What I'm going to borrow from the Community Development Association, and I think I mentioned this in one of the articles for the paper, is that we need their idea is to have a manufacturing companies that are going to abide by the minimizing the negative effects on the environment, and the products of this manufacturing will be sold locally. So I think that would be a good idea, a different place where we can move. It would be better paying jobs. It would kind of hook into all the different pieces that we've mentioned during our conversation tonight. So that's my vision for the future.
Thank you. We're going to move now to closing statements, and each candidate has 2 minutes to make his or her closing statement. And we began opening remarks with Bill, so we're going to begin closing statements with Eileen and move this way.
The whole process of qualifying for the ballot, which included visiting different subdivisions of Clarkdale, of which I really enjoyed, speaking with Clarkdale residents and listening to their concerns and suggestions for Clarkdale, along with observing official meetings of the Clarkdale government, I have really enjoyed the great learning experience I have had. As this is my first public office I have sought, I would like to continue to grow in knowledge in all aspects of town government. I want to thank all of the residents of Clarkdale that I've spoken to who have encouraged and supported me in this process of being a candidate for the Clarkdale Town Council. With your help, I look forward to being elected to the Town Council and be your representative for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eileen. Bob?
Well, as I said in my opening, I have an awful lot of experience. And with experience comes some wisdom, some talent, and some knowledge. I would like to share that experience, that knowledge, with my community by serving my community on the council. I realize that the role of a council person is two things. You need to protect and wisely spend people's money, and you need to enforce policy that support the will of the community. I pledge to you that that's what my job is, and I always do my job 100%, and I will do that for the council. In 1 minute, I'm going to tell you one more thing. I make this commitment. I will listen to you. I will listen to you if you allow me to be your voice. On that note, I appreciate everybody being here. I appreciate you folks putting this on. And I would appreciate your support in the ballot box.
Thank you. Ben?
Thank you. Well, this has been really wonderful. I want to thank the League of Women Voters. Gail, thank you. It's Kathy, Robin, everyone who worked on this, St. Thomas Episcopal Church, for lending us their parish hall. It's been an honor to serve on council for the past year. I've absolutely loved it. I've enjoyed talking about it. I've been incredibly proud, and I've loved this community. And I hope that I can continue to serve it for years to come on council. I want to share this place with other people. I want to talk about the exciting things that are happening in Clarkdale. I want to make sure that the investment we have of staff time and taxpayers' money are going to good places, good investments in the future that are going to pay dividends for years to come. A thriving community is made up of people with many different backgrounds, beliefs, and desires, which luckily we got to talk about thanks to one of our questions. I want to support Clarkdale in being that diverse, vibrant community that reflects this amazing group of citizens that we have. Thank you very much, and I would appreciate your support in this election.
Well, thank you again to the League of Women Voters, the Greater Verde Valley, the St. Thomas Episcopal Church, and those attending here, both here and at home, and Verde Valley TV. I have this little handout. I hope you guys will pick one up. And part of it says what I want for Clarkdale. I want stability. A new town manager and a majority of new department heads will bring lots of fresh perspectives over the next 4 years. That can be a very good thing when balanced by institutional knowledge and experience. At this particular time, we need to maintain stability and continuity where we can. Stability and continuity on the town council is very important right now. I want sustainable growth. We can assume that growth is coming because more people are discovering our beautiful region and wanting to move here. We want to encourage growth that first protects the flowing Verde River, second maintains our small town quality of life, and third supports economic development in our focus areas. I want economic development. Let's explore higher density, multifamily, mixed use, live, work, play concepts in our historic central business district. Let's attract sustainability-oriented industries to our Bitter Creek industrial area. Let's encourage sales tax generating commercial property valuation enhancing businesses along the 89A and Broadway corridors. I want regional solutions. We need broadband bandwidth for economic development, education, healthcare, government, and quality of life. We need to recapture millions of gallons of effluent lost each day in septic systems across the region and reuse it or return it to the Verde River. Let's continue looking at shared government services and co-locations. Let's find regional solutions where we can. I want a flowing Verde River. The Verde River is the lifeblood of the Verde Valley. Let's embrace creative mitigation practices to allow for use and growth that also sustains all living creatures in our delicate ecosystem that we enjoy every day and guarantee it for tomorrow. I have served the town of Clarkdale for 10 years. My service is still needed, and I'm willing to serve again on your town council for the next 4 years. My name is Bill Regner, and I ask for your consideration and your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, you got that all in. Wow. In our final minutes, there are two things we, as the League of Women Voters, would like to share with you. First of all, we would like to thank all of the candidates for your participation in this forum. And now's the time for the applause. The second note of appreciation goes to you, the audience members, for your attention, your intriguing and insightful questions, and your active participation this evening. So we applaud you. Then there are a few reminders we'd like to share with you. The first is that primary election day is August 28th. The last day to register to vote in the primary election is a week from today, July 30th. We have voter registration materials here this evening if you need to change your address because you've moved, or you know there are some people in your household or in your neighborhood that are not registered to vote, and you want to get the form to them so that they can register to vote by July 30th. Early ballots will be mailed the week of August 1st if you are on the permanent early voting list. Completed ballots can be returned by mail or dropped off at an election location in your area. If you are registered as an independent, non-designated voter, you can vote in the primary. When you go to your polling center, you will be asked to designate which party ballot you want. If you are a permanent early voter, you should have received a form from Yavapai County Elections Office that allowed you to select the party ballot you wish to vote. A ballot will not be mailed to unaffiliated voters until the Yavapai County Election Office receives a form from you, the voter, indicating your ballot choice. You may make your ballot choice by contacting the Yavapai County Elections Office by phone, email, or through the early ballot request website for Yavapai County. And all that information is on the tables here this evening. Candidates will be available to speak with you individually after the forum adjourns in just a moment. Candidate information and voter registration materials, as I mentioned, are available here tonight. Finally, remember to vote August 28th in the primary election and November 6th in the general election. And as the League of Women Voters says all the time, voting is people power. Thank you so much for being here this evening.